program. But we want to see also what we had last week, where we had the headlines as well, just briefly to just run you by them. If you never got a chance to see the headlines last week, this will form also the basis of our discussion this morning with our panelists as well. This is what was headlining. It shall be running concurrently as we are, of course, discussing this. Top judge to be arrested overseas. This is how it went last week, and then we had so much speculation. People are calling me, who is this judge? Who is this judge? We want to know. And we saw how it really panned out last week with Deputy CJ being arraigned in court over cases of corruption. But this has really drawn a lot of flack as well when it comes to how the whole scenario was handled. We have Senator Kindiki, who's a professor of public law and, of course, the current Deputy Speaker of the Senate, saying that he warned that the step-by-step DPP is a big blow for the judiciary and is bound to raise serious constitutional issues. First of all, from we know, Okong'o Mogeni, you are actually in this particular legal team that is, fighting for DCJ. We want to hear from you. Do you think, first of all, the way this scenario was handled, it was handled in the wisest of fashion by the Director of Public Prosecution? Dibal, I may not go into the details,
yes,
and more so the merits of the dispute pending before court, because that will be sub judice. But I think you can see that for the first time, the confidence that the Kenyan people have in the office of the DPP has taken a battering. And I think it's time for the DPP to reflect on how he exercises his constitutional powers under Article 157 of the Constitution. And I think the bigger debate should be, Dibal, how do we draw a line between what we can call civil commercial disputes and criminal actions that should attract criminal sanctions? I think that should be the debate that Kenyans should engage in. Number two is also that in waging the war against corruption, and I've seen a number of writers, including a lawyer, Kamodho Weganjo, on Saturday, I think he wrote an article in the Daily Nation, that we should be careful not to trivialize the war against corruption. And I'm happy to note that in page 10 of today's Nation, the DPP has actually set up a task force,
yes,
on guidelines on how he should exercise his constitutional power of making a decision to charge people. And one of the things he wants to look at is, minimum standards on decision making before a charge is preferred. If you look at the very first paragraph there, and I think to me that is lauded, because before you make a decision of taking an holder of a constitutional office, especially a deputy chief justice of a country, then you must convince yourself that what you have is a watertight case. And when you see all those headlines, when Kenyans see it, it is something that should be earth-shaking. A decision that really tells Kenyans that there is a lot of graft in the office of that individual. Number two is that, he is seeking guidelines on alternatives to prosecution, because not every complaint that reaches the office of the DPP should end up in a prosecution being mounted in court. He should also have guidelines that should tell him, look, some of these cases maybe there could be an impropriety, but there are no criminal sanctions that come along with it. And then finally is that, every human being can always make a mistake. Even at times you go to the High Court and judges will make a decision that is erroneous. You move up to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal can reverse it. And he's also saying that he wants guidelines on how he can review his decisions. What that means is that if he gets it wrong, he can go back and say that maybe I did this in the spur of the moment, I didn't consider this
maybe deeply enough.
So
and now
is this a PR exercise coming from the DPP?
No, it's not PR. I think Dibal, it's a recognition that the powers that come with that office are huge, and when you exercise, you are affecting the rights, the freedoms of people. You are subjecting people to criminal trial. It's painful. You can see the headlines that have been there the whole week. So I think he's saying that as I exercise these powers, I need to be assisted. I need some guidelines in place that can make it easy and fair in exercising the powers that have been donated to me by the Constitution. And I'm telling you, Dibal, there are many cases where you have seen, even the former DPP, Kiriako Tobiko.
Yes.
There are instances where he has moved to court and said, sorry, I made this decision to charge and prosecute the suspect, but having reviewed the file, I don't think I have a case against this particular individual, and I now want to withdraw the case from court. So it's not something that is very new, but I think the route the DPP has taken is that he wants to get views from other stakeholders. You can see the representation includes the Law Society, the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Human Rights Commission, and I say for the better interest of this country, that's a good step by the DPP.
All right, but we understand, of course, there was consultation with the CJ regarding this, according to his statement. Then, should we question the whole scenario, because it seems who is advising also the office of the DPP on legal matters? We asked him, was it handled in the right fashion? It wasn't. According to many panels. Just a moment, because the first route that they say the matter should have been taken to the JSC for the initiation of a tribunal to remove the Justice Mwilu from office, then prefer criminal charges against her once she was out. That will be the first route. The second will have been haven't held negotiation with the judiciary to have her resign or step aside, then charge her. That will have been another one. Then the other route will have been to wait until she retires. Then you, of course, arraign her to court. Sort of immunity that we have with, I don't know, instead of, because people are saying it is legally right to arrest the DCJ, but it is morally wrong, of course, to put that particular or to besmirch the office or the judiciary in its entirety, because this is where we're running for justice. I don't know what do you have? We'll come to you, Dr. Shemuchwetho.
Debal, I was watching the lady who was frying omena. We normally talk of Mama Mboga. In this instance, let me talk of Mama Omena. That's one of my favorites. And I asked myself, the omena she had in the sufuria can be barely enough for one person. She was preparing that for a whole entire family. I would be very hesitant.
One person.
Yeah, that's omena. It
that's
was
what you have taken yourself.
Being my delicacy. So I empathize. My point I'm trying to make is that I would be very hesitant to have two laws for two different sets of Kenyans, where we say some animals are more equal than others. But again, having said that, precedence has been set, and I agree with the Bwana Senator. My only thing is that I don't know if he's conflicted or not. I'm not sure whether, because during the hearing of the presidential petition, obviously you could see judges who appeared to have been leaning. I would have been very happy if Senator Omogeni and others were saying this regardless of which side that judge was seen to have been standing on. But having said that, I believe in the sanctity and the judicial independence of the judiciary. And precedence has been set in this regard. How did we deal with the case of Judge Nancy Barasa, in the case of Rawal, and similar? There was the other judge, appeal court judge, who was also, there was a tribunal set. So one needs to explain to Kenyans, why is it that we are not following that same method? I have been lauding media for exposing scandals after scandal and so on. But Debal, in this particular case, I had a bit of reservation when media says a judge to be arrested. And then I wonder, how did they know? Is it somebody, and if there was an official source, why wasn't that source quoted? Or is there a conspiracy? So I think in the case of Judge Mwilu, my only hope is that I hope it's not this a case of revisiting that the president did say when he, with humility, accepted the ruling of the Supreme Court when they annulled his first election, but said we'll revisit this matter. I'd want to know that there is no interference, because if the DPP and the courts and the arms of government prosecute are going to react to that, then of course it brings into question how independent is our judiciary, because the judiciary is the moral compass of society. That's all we have. If we dilute the JSC, the Judicial Service Commission, if we dilute the Supreme Court and the other arms of the judiciary, we're in great trouble. It's in this regard that we may not even have time to talk about it, but a number of Kenyans, including myself, are so concerned with why haven't the other members of the JSC been sworn in to take position, including Judge Wasame. Why is the president, why was he not gazetted as a member of the JSC, so that we have a fully constituted JSC? So the aspect of the judiciary, for me, it's one arm that I want to appeal to the executive. Let's not play with this, because we'd be playing with fire.
All right, let's hear from Jeremiah Kioni on this briefly. We'll come to you. Let's just go sequentially, because we have also here this a lawyer saying that we put it in the affidavit in our petition before the High Court that the Director of Public Prosecution, DPP Haji, was being driven by ulterior motives. Justice Mwilu arrest was well planned to coincide with the first anniversary. Of course, since we had that particular, nullification of the presidential election. This is what Jackson Awele said, who is also in the leading legal team representing Justice Mwilu. Even looking at that particular timing, the way you said also media went full steam ahead to give a speculation that a judge will be arrested. They had an information about it, and this was coinciding with the first anniversary of during that particular ruling that we had. Do you think maybe the timing was a bit off? Because now we have also other lawyers taking scruples with this, that yes, we are suspecting this truly is a political move.
I am lost, Dibal. I put on a red jacket. I don't know what it coincides with today. I mean, you can read all sorts of things from these things, but I think the important thing would be that, and I see the former Prime Minister telling his, I'm sure he's telling his brigade, including Senator Omogeni, don't politicize anti-corruption war, says Raila. And I'm sure he's speaking to all of us, including my senator here.
This is in the People Daily?
Yes, in the People Daily.
Page,
and I think one of the things is that...
What page is it?
In the People Daily, page 6.
Okay.
He's saying, and he was accompanied by, among others, some of the people who appeared for the Deputy Chief Justice. Senator Olengo, he was with Othiambo, Chris Carr. I'm sure I'm looking for another lawyer. Omogeni, I don't know where Omogeni was. But I think he was clearly, we are going to ensure that there is no unfair prosecution. In fact, we have instructed those who are involved with the investigation of prosecution to ensure they have proper evidence before they begin any prosecution. But he said the dragnet might trap your relatives, but we want to ensure there is no victimization. He's saying some very interesting things. I think when these kind of things happen, we are likely to read all manner of things. What I saw, and I thought I was a little bit unhappy with, was when the Deputy Chief Justice was arraigned in court, even before dealing with the merits or the demerits of the issue. What I thought was a little bit worrying was the choice, the Omogeni and his whole party team. It was just like it was a NASA legal persons in Parliament who went to protect her. If I were the one as the Deputy Chief Justice, I'll be careful to make sure that I was represented by both sides of the political divide, right, so that my case is not only politically. When that happens, you crowd the reasonings, people stop being rational, because they start looking at this. Why is it that only NASA lawyers are present there? How is it that I don't see any other lawyer perhaps from Jubilee who would have been saying, this issue of this is beyond the mark? I think the optics are not helping us, and we need to be very careful with that. Having said that, let me also say that I want to share with Dr. Oshoro that we have to be careful not to come up with two sets of standards. Where you steal mandazi, you are taken in very quickly. And not even an intern shows up to help you sort out the case. And you are alleged to have done some other crime, but because of what your status in society, all of us flock in the court. And we say this law should not have been applied to this person. And I'm not addressing the issue of Justice Mwilu. I don't know her in person. I only met her once when we were in Mombasa. We were both facilitating the induction of members of parliament. And I thought she was a very warm person. But my concern is that this war on corruption must be won. The momentum must be maintained. All of us must make sure that we do not deteriorate in any way, in any manner, through either what we say or how we behave. And this includes those members of parliament who are senior lawyers. We want them. Allow me to just finish, Diba. And then we must avoid now, if the office of the DPP is acting outside what is provided for in the constitution and the neighboring statute, again, there is a channel through which we can tackle and deal with him, even removing him. But we should avoid intimidating him. I hope he is not a person we can intimidate. We gave him a security of tenure for 6 years, where we are saying maybe after that he doesn't even need to look for another job, for the reason that he has to deal with all of us in office.
Thank you.
Every other person. Remember this debate. When a governor was arrested the other day, what did the governor say? We want immunity. Yeah? So it's like we are saying some persons in given position should commit crimes and nobody should ask. When you talk, I listened to Tom Ojeda last night. He was being interviewed by one of the other stations, and I left confused. And he quite could not tell us what we needed to have done in the alternative of what was done by the DPP. And if only he did not show up for that, there would have been some real hope elsewhere. But when he showed up, to some of us, it was very clear. The DPP did not have any other choice.
He didn't have any other choice.
I mean, the JSC, even according to Tom Ojeda, is what the JSC would have done. He kept going round, quorum, committee, and all those kind of things.
Right. These are the governors who are seeking immunity during that time. They should.
The ball and the panel, it's natural for really human beings to defend themselves. It's also natural for businessmen to take jobs that are available for them to make a living. I mean, unless you are a philanthropist, you cannot go to court to defend somebody for nothing. I can imagine that my panelist, my friend Mugeni, is not doing it for free, and therefore we should not be questioning why it's being done. However, what we want to question is you look at the kind of battery of lawyers who have gone to defend the deputy CJ. First of all, I did not even know that the former vice president is still practicing law, to really be in court defending a client of that nature. So I read a lot of politics in the whole of this thing, and let's not try to pretend there are no politics, basically, because when did Honorable Steve Kalonzo Musyoka lastly appear for somebody in court? For him to have come out of retirement and defend and be in court in the docks, I mean, and defend someone, it's really questionable. I read several things here. One, I do not want to say really the ugly head of tribalism that has come in here, because I looked at, of course, Mwilu comes from a certain tribe, and I saw a battery of lawyers from that particular tribe kind of saying this is our own and being targeted. And then look at the political divide. We have most of those lawyers. Is it a coincidence that most of them are legislatures, especially from NASA side, who are currently in parliament? And some of them went to the extent of saying that their services are voluntary for free. I mean, they're free. Why? Why do you want to go to court and defend somebody for free? That's because there must be another motive beyond really having justice being done. Having said that, it is a very unfortunate incident, of course, even to Deputy CJ. But what has this done to the Kenyan image on fight against corruption? I want to tell you, it's looking very good. It's a small price to pay, or maybe a big price to pay, because we don't know who is going to be the next victim, even on this bench, because the whip is being cracked.
We have Mugeni as the lawyer.
And yes, Mugeni is here. But it's looking good, because out there it's seen that no one is immune. But now if you start creating this picture, this notion that we have two sets of laws, then it's a big problem. I want to hear the magistrate to handle this particular case. The young man looked very brave, and I really want to associate myself with this particular magistrate, not because he comes from my county, but to have handled that case the way he did, and that braveness, and you could see the way he was being battered by most of those lawyers and intimidated, then it's really commendable. And it is good to note that we have a judiciary that is not cowed or intimidated or easily can be even influenced with whatever means to bow to a decision just because they are looking at cases involving their bosses. Right. It's really commendable. Right.
Senator Opogiso.
Thank you. And I think
then we should be preparing our headline thoughts.
We are putting Senator Morgan on the spot for nothing. And he was just the first one to show up there. So,
on pro bono basis. Maybe you should reveal this morning.
I hope you'll give it the last.
Yeah, we'll give you.
And the reason why those lawyers went there is, I mean, everybody wants good lawyers. So it's my friend. I know he's a good lawyer. The other one is to say that I know Kalonzo Musyoka is an active lawyer. He didn't retire, except that he doesn't go to court, but he runs his law firm still. Now, the whole issue, just requires that let's be explicit. If we don't want governors to be arrested this way, let's be explicit, but put it in the law. If you don't want so and so, the only person we know is exempt from this kind of harassment would be the president of the country, that you cannot prefer these criminal charges while he's in office. But I don't think anybody else has that, we will all be taken through what has been happening. Besides, I just think that, like Governor is saying, the war on corruption, you just can't slow down. You cannot begin to intimidate anybody or cause it to look like it's coming to an end, because unless it is done, the other rules of how you arrest somebody or you present them to court, those to me are not the most important thing. The most important thing is to keep the fight against corruption going and going strong, and be able to encourage DPP and not necessarily to discourage him. Okay, like anybody may make a mistake, but really not to make it look like now you've been beaten into submission, therefore don't do this, don't do that, and then you lose the fight. I think the reason why the DPP has a tenure and security is so that he's brave enough to do what he has. More importantly, I think, is this thing looks like it was canvassed at some point. Everybody seemed to be sure. Even the judge seems to have known already, arranged the battery of lawyers that you're talking about. Because, I mean, after the arrest, everybody was in place. It's like everybody knew about it. So I don't know what the hullabaloo is about.
Thank you. All right. Your headline thoughts, Okong'o, briefly. Headline thoughts, each of you.
Yeah, first I think Honorable Kioni was trying to quote the PM right out of the context, because if you read page 6, what he says is that cases must be based on proper evidence
this
and
is
not
part also of your headline
hearsay,
yes,
and should not be inspired by witch hunt, okay, or attempt to settle all the political scores. I think that's what he said. So, I mean, having said that, one, you know, we have about 3 senior councils in the Senate. I don't think there is none in the National Assembly. So by coincidence, all the 3 senior councils are NASA affiliated. So really, if the good brains are on the NASA side, Governor,
how they became.
There's nothing we can do about it. Number 2, really.
Briefly, 30 seconds, we are short for time.
Yes. Number 2, you know, the lawyers that are appearing for Judge Mwilu are responding to an injustice. These are not lawyers that she prearranged and lined up to appear for her in court. These are people who are appearing for pro bono in the best interest of justice. 3, it's not true that it's only NASA lawyers. In fact, Mr. Wanyama was on the side of the president during the presidential petition, but he appeared in court in defense of of Judge Mwilu. And I could give you names if you were to be fair.
No, we're stopped. Let's leave it. This is a developing story. We'll still have it, I think, next time. Please. Let's hear from Jeremiah Kiuni. Dr. Shimon Chulo, 30 seconds.
Dibal, it's very unfortunate in my view what NASA and ODM, particularly the Secretary General, came out in a way in defense. I think the handshake, one of the 9 points was fighting graft, and so far the party has done very well. And in this regard, I associate with the leader of the party, saying, look, let's treat matters in their own merit, and we shouldn't be seen to be ganging up to defend graft. Lastly, Rwandese are voting today diaspora in Kenya. One of the biggest requests of Kenyan diaspora is to be allowed to vote. If Rwandese in Kenya can vote in Mombasa and Nairobi, we need to do it also to our people.
Thank you. Let's hear from Governor.
Yeah, thank you, Dibal. Regardless of what is happening in the courts at the moment, I think the goodwill that is there at the moment to really put this country together after the handshake should really be taken advantage of, even when it comes to fighting corruption. Let us not be seen in our small roles, whether as a lawyer, whether in GSC or in parliament, to be leaning towards political alienation, because we'll lose our cause.
Right, thank you. That's it. Lastly, Senator Pogisio.
Yes, just to keep encouraging us, Dibal, as a country, that we need to come together on this issue of the fuel increase and be sure that our people are represented well. I just want to say the government must reverse this decision.
Right. Jeremiah Kioni,
lastly. The president heeding the call on these issues of fuel prices, but also let us as Kenyans be behind Haji. We should support him. He's done what we wanted done since 1963. I believe that he will not be doing anything for purposes of witch hunt. But as Kenyans, let's support the fight against corruption. It may even help us on these fuel prices.